and they would break out in song anytime. And sometimes as you go down, walking through the village, you hear somebody singing, or somebody floating along in the water.
Did you deliver any babies?
No. No, didn't deliver any babies. No, I didn't get to do that. That would have been fun.
I don't think they needed much help. I think they had that one figured out pretty good. So this is a little bit of technical background for mast collapse. And this is the strange thing. This is what it looks like for the mast step. It was deck step mast. And when we got the boat, it was a home-built boat I bought from the guy that built it. No, it's fiberglass, sorry. So it's all a glass hull, and the hull is rock solid. It was built from a mold. There were about a dozen hulls taken from it. There's a few of the boats around the coast here, this phrase. But the deck was glass over ply. And for the most part, pretty solid. But you'd look at that, I assume that there was the proper plate underneath it that had big 4-inch square compression posts underneath. So it's solid, big. So one would assume that you have a plate sitting on top of the compression post, like that would be holding up the whole mast. Well, that wasn't the case. What it was, and I cannot figure out why he did it this way, but what you had was, here, like that, I'll just have to talk. You have the compression post coming through the deck, and then there was a plate that the mast was sitting on, but instead of sitting on top of the compression post, it was around the compression post. Welded on, and then there was filler between it and the deck's just some concrete and fiberglass filler. So basically, it was these welds with this plate around the compression post that was holding up the mast. And I cannot figure out why on earth anybody would have done it that way, but that's the way it did. So we lived with it for several months, partly because we were so busy and involved in the island life that we didn't have time to deal with it. And I had to wait for the weather, for the squally season to end, so I had some good dry weather because we had a fair bit of rain. And we've got all the duct tape going in the bucket that lived down there because anytime it rained, it leaked right down into the boat. And we'd have quite a stream of water. It was our water feature down below. And we'd float bottle caps back and forth and have races in the tub. But you can see what happened. It ended up rotting a bit of the deck, and everything had collapsed down. So what I had to do was lift the whole mast. And there's no cranes or anything, so I just had to figure out how on earth I'm going to do this. Got different opinions from everybody, and finally decided how I'm going to do it, and I jacked it up using the 2x4s that we borrowed from somebody because they're precious. Somebody was going to build something with that, and you don't see many 2x4s in the iron that we found in the jungle. Raised up by the gooseneck, I managed to lift the whole mast up enough that I could start. You can see that's the plate down there. Got some spacers in underneath, glassed in a hole. I had to put in a big aluminum plate underneath that I had with me. Glassed it in, and then from underneath, you can see how it all rusted away. And then underneath, I had to lift it up. I made these supports and a screw jack because I had to now get the deck back up so I could, once it lifted it off, it took some of the weight off, but now I had to bring it back into shape and bring it up to the right height. So I had some channel iron that I cut and made a screw jack. And that's basically how we finished with it. And as far as I know, the boat is still like that because we sailed all the way from there to New Zealand and it held fine. I was going to get around to fixing it, making it look a little nicer, but that never happened. But we managed to get that repaired. And it was a bit of a challenge because it was one of those jobs that you sort of look at and it's like, what on earth am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And it just overwhelms you and you just get depressed too. And it's like, but then you sort of work through it and you just persist and it gets done and you do it. This is more dancing. The local high school had a competition where all the kids would be dancing and they compete against each other. And it was quite amazing because they really get into it and they get very emotional. There were times some of the girls would be screaming and some of the kids would collapse and faint because they would just get so worked up and the heat and the excitement. But they really put their hearts into it. This is at the high school. They use the old buildings from the cable station for their high school. Competing, making mats, races, coconuts for the feast, making